yeah, that actually wasn't terrible. M3GAN is a brand new 2023 horror film. It was directed by Gerard Johnston and it stars Allison Williams. And yeah, I was actually expecting this movie to be terrible because the trailers did not sell me at all. When it was first announced, I was actually quite interested because James Wan was attached. He's not the director of this movie, he is a writer and a producer, but still, he was attached, so I was interested. But then the trailers started coming out, and I just thought it looked bad. So, yeah, without further rambling, here's my review for M3GAN. Starting off with the good, and like I said, I am shocked that this movie was actually enjoyable. First of all, the character of M3GAN, the killer doll in this movie, is actually really interesting. I really like her character, and I don't know if they're going to build a franchise off this character, but I wouldn't be against it if they make her as enjoyable as she was in this movie. And I really like the body work. I don't know if it was actually somebody physically in the doll makeup or if it was actually like stop motion or something like that. I'm not sure, but I still was really impressed with how they were able to capture the movements and the mannerisms of M3GAN, whether it was physically portrayed or animated somehow. Either way, really liked M3GAN in this movie. And then you have Allison Williams as the main character in this movie. Well, the aunt of the main little girl in this movie. I really like Allison Williams in this movie. She did a really good job. And the little girl isn't terrible. She gives a good performance, but I'm going to talk a little bit on her later. I really enjoyed the story, as familiar as a lot of it really is, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I just really enjoyed the story. It has some pretty interesting ideas, but there's just something missing from it, which, again, I'll talk later. I've got a little bit to bitch about in the in the bad part of this review. But like I said, the character of M3GAN is really interesting. I'd love to see a franchise built off of this character. I think it would be really interesting to see. And you get a really good atmosphere within this movie, which, with a James Wan produced horror film, you usually do get because James Wan is a very, very good director. He's got a very keen eye for camera work and atmosphere, and he's not the director of this one, but his influence is still very much felt within this movie, and I feel like that really helped the movie become better than what it probably should have been. But that's aside my point. And also, this movie does have a pretty interesting take on grief and loss, and I feel like that's really something that the message of that really elevated this movie beyond what it originally was as well. But that's about all for the good. Let's go ahead on to the bad. And there's a few things I just was not a fan of in this movie. First of all, I liked the little girl's performance. However, I did not care about the character. And that's probably a bad thing to say because this is the character that we're supposed to be attached to for this entire movie. But I just did not care about her at all. I honestly think she was kind of a brat. And I get it. Yes, she lost her parents in the beginning of the movie, but I feel like they went a little too heavy handed with how she was acting. There are some points in this movie where, as a parent, I just wanted to go and do some drive by parenting, as some people on the internet have already said, but I agree with that take. And then there's the whole thing with the story. It's very familiar. We've definitely seen killer AI in films before. We've sure as fuck seen killer dolls before. I mean, Chucky is a whole thing. Hello, Chucky. Also, the Chucky remake was a killer AI doll. The story's nothing original, mind you, but I still didn't think it was offensively familiar, so I still enjoyed it. I just had to bring that up. And then my biggest gripe with this movie is the editing in this movie. And it's not like offensively bad jump cuts. It's nothing like that. It's just the fact that this movie was so obviously made to be rated R. And then the studio hack jobbed it down to a PG-13 rating to appeal to a younger and more wide audience. And I'm not one of those elitists who's like, oh no, all horror movies should be rated R. I hate PG-13 horror. No, I like a lot of PG-13 horror. There's some really, really solid PG-13 horror films. Quiet Place 1 and 2, Happy Death Day 1 and 2, Drag Me to Hell being the main one for me. You can do really good PG-13 horror, but this movie was so obviously made to be rated R, and they edited it all down. They watered it down to a PG-13 rating, and that just frustrates me as a horror fan. Yeah, that's about all for the bad. Let's go ahead on to the final thoughts. I really enjoyed M3GAN, despite some glaring issues I had with it. I thought it was a fun movie with some really good atmosphere and a hopefully new horror icon that we might get sequels from. M3GAN was very fun. I will buy it on Blu-ray, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So that's my thoughts on M3GAN. Have you seen this movie? What did you think about it? If you have seen it, let me know down in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.